Om. 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 Om Sahana Vavatu Sahanau Bhunaktu Saha Viryam Karavavahai Tejasvinavadhitamastu ma vidvishavahai. Om Shanti Shanti Shanti. Vakratunda Mahakaya Suryakoti Samaprabha Nirvignam Kuru me Deva Sarvakaryeshu Sarvada. Saraswati Namastubhyam Varade Kamarupini Vidyarambham Karishyami Siddhir-bhavatu me sada. Samasta jana kalyani niratam karuna. Namami chinmayam devam tatkurum brahma vidharam. Mukam karoti vachalam pangum langhayate girim. Yat kripatamaham vande paramanandama. Okay, so let us read the verses we covered last time, verses 1 to 4. Om Shri Paramatmane Namaha Atha Shashtodhyayah Atma Samyama Yogaha Shri Bhagavan Uvacha Anashritah Karma Phalam Karyam Karma Karoti Yaha Sa Sanyasi Cha Yogi Cha Na Niragnir Na Chakriyah Yam Sanyasamiti Prahuhu Yogam Tam Vidhi Pandava Nahya Sanyasta Sankalpaha Yogi Bhavati Kashchana Arurukshormunir Yogam Karma Karanamuchyate Yoga Rudhasya Tasyaiva Shamah Karanamuchyate. Yada hinendriyartheshu na karma swanushajyate sarva sankalpa sanyasi yoga rudhastadochyate. So we are in chapter 6 of the Bhagavad Gita entitled Atma Samyama Yoga or Dhyana Yoga, which basically means meditation on the self. Because the idea is that now we have gone through chapters 1 to 5, the mind is getting slowly prepared to turn within. Now, what did we see last week? Last week, we saw verses 1 to 4. And the basis or the theme of verses 1 to 4 is, who is a meditator? Who is fit to be a meditator? So in the first verse, it says that a Karma Yogi is like a Sanyasi and a Yogi meditator. A Karma Yogi, one who performs their actions dedicated to the higher and accepts results without insistence or hoping or worry or anxiety, that is called a Karma Yogi. One who dips themselves into action, as I mentioned in chapter 3. D meaning dedicate to something bigger and greater above themselves. I meaning they're an instrument of Bhagavan. And P meaning whatever comes, they accept as Prasad. So the person who dips themselves into action is called Karma Yogi. And we say dip because when you dip, you come out right away. You don't stay there. There's no saute and cooking and boiling, because then you'll really get affected by the action. The Karma Yogi does and comes out of it and is completely equanimous. And remember, in any selfish action, we cannot be equanimous. Whenever we want something for ourselves, there is no way we will have prasada buddhi, or that buddhi to accept whatever happens. Because we really want it for ourselves. We want it to work, we want it to be, and we don't know what we will do without it. We're too attached to it. So the minute we perform a selfish action, there is no prasada buddhi. It will not happen. But when our actions are far greater than ourselves, we can be equanimous, because we realize that it's a cosmic plan, right? And so many factors are there in play. And no matter what happens, I'll be okay, because this is for entirety. If Bhagavan desires it, okay. If not, okay. So this is called a Karma Yogi. Elaboration on Karma Yoga is in chapter 2, some verses, and chapter 3, entire chapter. Now this Karma Yogi is considered a Sanyasi because the Karma Yogi renounces the results of actions. So in one way, they are renouncing, and is also considered a yogi, a meditator, because the idea is when we renounce the results of actions, we don't have what we call vikshepa, or distractions or disturbances in the mind, or we have less disturbances. Whenever we're anxious and worried and eager for something to happen, the mind is constantly going there. But for a Karma Yogi who has renounced that, the mind is less disturbed and they're able to go within. So Bhagavan Krishna here praises the Karma Yogi and says the Karma Yogi is really like a sannyasi, really like a yogi. Now, then Bhagavan Krishna says that, without being a Karma Yogi, without being established in Karma Yoga, one really cannot meditate. Why? In verse 2, he says that the one who has not renounced Sankalpa, this idea that there's joy outside in objects, this idea that I will get happiness from there, the one who has not renounced that person cannot meditate, because the mind is always going outside. So the idea is Karma Yogi is one who starts to prepare themselves to slowly let go of all the attractions in the world in a very natural way. The question then comes, should I stay in Karma Yoga all the time? Now my life is of Karma Yoga, but should I be performing this and should I be focusing on this all the time? Then Bhagavan Krishna says, look, there are two kinds of stages, right? Two kinds of people. One is Arurukshu, which is mentioned in verse 3, who is climbing. The one who has yet to prepare their mind, whose mind still has a lot of raga dvesha, likes and dislikes, lots of disturbances, lots of selfishness. For that mind, then the means is Karma Yoga. So if my mind is like that, then I should engage in more Karma Yoga. And if the mind starts to calm down, if the mind is relatively sattvic, predominantly sattvic, ready to be completely still, if one can actually sit down and go within, that person is called Yoga Rudha, which means that person has climbed on yoga and that person is capable of meditating. And for the one who's capable of meditating, then the means is Shama. Shama means to withdraw from the world slowly, because now this person can actually go within. So it's not like if I reach a certain age, then I should start to turn within, or if I pass through a certain achievement or accomplishment in my life, I should turn within. Really, the determining factor or the litmus test is, where is my mind? And it's also not like one day I'm completely a karma yogi and the next day I'm completely now within, and I'm meditator. It's not also like that. It's a very, very gradual process. Now the question comes is, now how do I know if I'm ready for this inward stage in life? And for many of us, this inward stage, see, many are householders. It doesn't mean that you don't engage with the family. It doesn't mean that you don't continue to fulfill your duties. It means that you continue to do that. You continue to engage with family, but the social pull, the excess activities, all of that gets cut down. All of that gets lessened because one realizes that I'm quite happy being by myself. I really don't need all of these other things. So we were in verse 4 last time. Bhagavan Krishna gives these 3 descriptions and says, when this happens to us, then know that we're ready to kind of turn within. And when we turn within, it will work. If we're thinking we're trying to sit quietly, but it's not working, our mind is wandering everywhere, we know why. We know why, because we don't have these 3 factors. But when we have these 3 factors, we can sit and sit and sit like there's no tomorrow. What are these? Yada hi nindriyartheshu anushajyate. When one doesn't get attracted to sense objects. The sense objects, the things, the pleasures of the world, they don't attract this person. Now, it doesn't mean the person doesn't engage. I want to make this clear because in chapter 3, Bhagavan Krishna said, nobody can be without action. Everybody has to have some action. Even sitting down is an action. But there's no draw, there's no pull for the world. There's no attraction for the world. So an example is, let's say there is a young child. There is a young child in your home who is visiting you, or your own child, your grandchild, wants to play a soccer game. Okay? Wants to play a soccer game with you, and that has a small ball and everything like that. And so you play the soccer game. You play the soccer game and you're nicely enjoying. Now the child's friends come and they make teams, one team versus the other team. And they say, you also pick a team, you also pick a team. So you pick a team, the mummy, the daddy, the nani, the dadi, whoever, the dada, they pick a team and they're playing soccer. And then all of a sudden, somebody else comes, a guest comes, and you have to leave the game. So you leave the game. And then all of a sudden, you come again and join the game, and your team loses. So your team loses. Now, even throughout this soccer game, what is the feeling? Whether you played or not, big deal. It's okay, right? Whether you're in the game or you had to come out of the game because some guest had arrived, okay. Whether you won or lost, it didn't really matter, right? Because it's just a game. To you and me, this soccer is just a game. It doesn't, my peace of mind doesn't depend on the soccer game. I can do without it. I'm completely okay. But the ones who are so involved in the soccer game, they really want to be in the game. And they're very, very, conscious of which team they're playing with. I don't want to play with that team. I want to play with this team. And I want to play the forward. I don't want to play, the goalie. I want to play a certain part. And if somebody's calling me, I don't want to go. I want to finish my game. And I want to win. Now, this kind of person is so engrossed in the soccer game. After the soccer game, if they win, super elated. And if they lose, very depressed. So now you picture scenario 1. in scenario 2. So where should we be? Scenario 1. Not for the soccer game, for the entire world. Okay, so we can do this with the soccer game. Yeah, because we have no interest. We can do this with, something else because we have no interest. But certain things which we're interested in, we can't have this attitude. But yada hinendriyartheshu nushajjate means the entire world of objects, that the mind doesn't get pulled anymore. No attraction. They just do what they have to do and finish. And because the mind doesn't get pulled by objects, then what happens? Na karma anushajjate. Then there's also no attachment or attraction to action. Which kind of action? The kind of action that makes me pursue the world to get joy from it. That kind of action. There is no that kind of action anymore. It slowly goes. The person is really rooted in their dharma, in their daily dharma. So in all the unnecessary, sense objects, all those, the mind engaging in the sense object, that goes. All unnecessary activity, that goes. So in one level, shama and dhamma, mastery of the mind and senses, that takes place. Uparama, that mastery over activity or withdrawal from unnecessary activity, that takes place. And Sarva Sankalpa Sanyasi, the one who has renounced all Sankalpas. And as I mentioned before, Sankalpa is the idea that there is joy in that object, that circumstance, that situation will complete me. It will make me so full and it will make me so happy. That the response is, give it a couple of days and see if you feel the same way. Sankalpa also means firm resolve. The ones who have a firm resolve that, yes, I will do this. Yes, we will work on it. Yes, we will get it done. That person also cannot meditate in this fashion. Cannot meditate. Because then all that person is thinking about is, we will do it. How will we get it done? Where will we get it done? Who can I talk to get it done? The whole meditation is trying to think of how to get this project accomplished. But if there is renunciation of Sankalpa, then that person can sit with it. So Sankalpa, that thought that there is joy outside, or that firm resolve to do something. Now you're going to say, but isn't that a good thing? It's a good thing to some extent, but here we're talking at a deeper level. Now, before I go to the next few verses, which are very, very beautiful, first I want to give you some kind of context. Now that you've seen a few verses and sort of understood who Bhagavan Krishna is speaking about, now what is Bhagavan Krishna speaking about? Why is this meditation so difficult to do? Because we hear that people say every day, I meditate. So many people say, I meditate every day. I meditate every day. But it seems like it's such a big deal. The answer is, there are two parts to meditation. In Vedanta, now we're talking about Advaita Vedanta, there are two parts of meditation. One part is for calming the mind, and the second part is for transcending the mind. So meditation in Vedanta is calming the mind and transcending the mind, both. When we look at practices that are just worldly practices, people meditate because they want stress reduction or anxiety reduction, or to even heal their bodies. They meditate for strong immunity. They meditate. So we're not even talking about this worldly kind of meditation. This is not even, there's no room for that here, because in our Shastra, meditation was not for all of this. Meditation is only for enlightenment, for the realization of truth. There's no, I mean, all of this other stuff is a bonus, but that's not why we meditate. So in calming the mind stages, one might do things like breathing techniques, or what we call pranayama. I do pranayama. One may perform japa. Japa, the repetition of a mantra or the name of Bhagavan. One may do upasana, focusing the mind on a devata, ishta devata, the Bhagavan, the form of Bhagavan or Bhagavati, who really is dear to my heart. One may even do kirtana, like they sing bhajans, and slowly get into that state of calming. So one may do all of these things to calm the mind. One may even do like a body scan. In Ashtanga Yoga, we go from the feet to the head and then the head to the feet. So one can do all of that for calming the mind. But transcending the mind is very different. So most of the meditation that we see is just calming the mind. And what happens when we calm the mind? We keep our jiva bhava. Jiva bhava means our sense of individuality. I am Shubhani and I am calming my mind. My mind is peaceful. My mind is calm. I am a peaceful being. And there's no doubt that this is helpful. This is definitely helpful and we should do this. But the thing is, this is not enough because it's temporary. After our yoga asana class, what happens? We are fine for 10 minutes. And then somebody bumps into us just like that. And we get so angry. We go home and, somebody said something to us or looks at us in a weird way and we get annoyed. So this calming the mind kind of meditation, it lasts temporary. It just for that time when we sit down, it's there. And maybe a little bit after. But when I'm interacting in the world, I lose it. I lose my calm. And so this is not enough. So when we go now to the second part of transcending the mind, that part is what? That part is when we actually, after gaining knowledge, knowing who I am, that I am not the body, not the mind, not the intellect, through Shravana and Manana, through listening and reflection, after understanding who I am, now what the sadhaka or the seeker does is to contemplate on the self. To contemplate on the self. On the self, on Atma. Why? To be rooted, to be established in the self. That self which is beyond the mind. So this is nididhyasana. That transcending the mind is nididhyasana. It's going beyond the mind and getting rooted in the self. So when we say somebody is yoga rudha, we mean someone who's doing this. Not just somebody who's doing japa, upasana, and all of that. Somebody who's doing this. And when somebody is rooted in the reality, then that is a very permanent thing. The sense of individuality or the jiva bhava is gone. And one remains as the self. That is permanent, not what we say peace of mind, it is peace itself. So this, to attain this, to realize this, then these qualities are required. For calming the mind, we need some amount of this. We definitely need some amount of this, and we can easily quieten the mind for some time. We can easily calm the mind for some time. But for someone who's looking to get rooted in the self, we need these qualities mentioned in the fourth verse in full measure. Because being established in the self is serious business. it's a very, very wonderful thing. So that's why Bhagavan Krishna is really telling us that we have to prepare ourselves very well, prepare the ground very well, go through our Karma Yoga, and then go through our japa, go through our upasana, go through our pranayama, whatever it is that we're required to do, go through that. And when the mind is ready, then come climb on yoga and transcend that. Climbing yoga, transcending, stay rooted. Now, one important thing to note is meditation does not give us knowledge. Okay, meditation gives us abidance in knowledge. Knowledge happens through shravanam and manam, through listening and reflection. There we understand who we truly are. That knowledge requires a thought. So that happens in shravanam and manam, where we understand who we truly are. But after that shravanam and manam, we are still not able to feel it or manifest it. There's a problem. And that problem is fixed by nididhyasanam, which is the second part of meditation. So meditation is not to gain knowledge. Meditation is to gain that abidance. So this has to be very clear. Knowledge happens after shravanam, but abiding in it is nididhyasanam. And what is enlightenment? Enlightenment is abidance in that knowledge. Enlightenment is not just knowing who I am, it is being who I am. Being. Okay? So I hope this makes everything clear in everyone's mind. So now we know how deep this topic actually is. It's not a casual thing that we're talking about, right? Now, Bhagavan Krishna says, now that I've told you who can meditate, after listening to all of this, we feel like, gosh, am I ever going to get there? I mean, it seems hard. It seems hard to really be this way in the world. It seems hard to imagine that I can actually do this. Bhagavan Krishna says, you can do it. I can do it. And we all can do it. We all have to lift ourselves by ourselves. This is a very famous verse. Verse number 5. Uddharedatmanatmanam.
Uddharedatmanatmanam.
Natmanamavasadaye.
Natmanamavasadaye.
Atmaiva hyatmano bandhuhu.
Atmaiva hyatmano bandhuhu.
Atmaiva ripuratmanaha.
Atmaiva ripuratmanaha.
Uddharedatmanatmanam. Atmanam avasadaye. Atmaiva hyatmano bandhuhu. Atmaiva ripuratmanaha. So this is a very, very beautiful verse. Gurudev used to ask everybody to chant this again and again and again. So we are going to chant it 2 more times together. Okay? Uddharedatmanatmanam. Natmanam avasadaye. Atmaiva hyatmano bandhuhu. Atmaiva ripuratmanaha uddharedatmanatmanam natmanam avasadaye Atmaiva hyatmano bandhu Atmaiva ripuratmanaha. We should memorize this. We can. So this is one of the memorizing shlokas, Dinaji. This one, 6.5. You can add to your list. Now, Atma doesn't mean Sat Chit Ananda here. So that's the first thing we should understand. Because Atma means many things in many, many different verses. Here, it doesn't mean that. Here, Atma has to do more with the mind. Okay? Uddharet Atmana Atmanam. Uddharet. Uddharet means lift. Lift what? Atmana. Lift by the self. Atmanam, self. So lift the self by the self. Na Atmanam avasadaye means don't avasadaye, don't lower the self. We'll just do word for word and I'll explain clearly. Atma eva hi atmanaha bandhuhu. The self is the friend of the self. Only the self is the friend of the self. Atma eva ripuratmanaha. The self is the enemy of the self. Okay. So now I'll explain. We clearly understand what this is saying. He says first, lift the self by the self means lift that mind. The first meaning is lift that mind to the realization of the truth. So Atma means mind. Atmanam. Atmanam means mind. Lift that mind, Atmana, by the realization of this truth, towards the realization of the truth. Lift that mind. So the first meaning is this, that upon attaining this knowledge that we are the body, we are not the body, mind, and intellect, and we are actually the pure consciousness, lift the mind there. Having heard that from a teacher, having understood that, having read that, lift the mind to that level where I am Atma. I am existence, not that I exist as the body. The minute that you see this, I am existence, and then I lower myself to say I am the body. A complete drop. I am pure existence. How can I exist as this body? I am pure consciousness. I'm that which illumines all of these thoughts. How can I be these thoughts? How can I be this mind? I am pure consciousness that illumines everything. I am bliss. I am Ananda. I am infinitude. How can I be so sad and petty and disturbed? So lift the mind to who we really are at the core of our being. Those of you who attended Atman series, this was made very, very clear that we are not this, body, mind, intellect. We are not the sheets. We are not the waker, dreamer, deep sleeper. We are that Atman. So this knowledge has to be so clear, and we lift our minds to it and don't let the mind drop. We are that already. This is the first. There are several layers to this. We will go through each layer. Second meaning now is lift ourselves, lift our mind to that realization of truth through spiritual practices. So in Mandukya Upanishad, there is a particular sadhana, a spiritual practice that one does. From Vishva, one has to unite themselves to Virat. What is Vishva? Vishwa is the individual being here in this body, the individual being in this body, identified with this body. Identify yourself with the cosmic body of the universe. So from me being this individual body in the universe, identify with the cosmic body. Feel like I am all of these bodies that I see around. I am all of these plants, all of these animals, all of these beings. Feel that oneness. And that oneness is possible through Karma Yoga. Because Ashtamurti Brit Deva Pujanam, we see in Upadesha Sara. Karma Yoga is the act of seeing my being, myself in everybody. I see myself in everybody, and hence I want to serve everyone. I want to serve everyone because I feel that compassion. I feel that love. I feel that, they're going through something and I want to help them. So from this individual being, lift ourselves to the cosmic body of the universe through the practice of Karma Yoga. Then we unite Taijasa with Hiranyagarbha, meaning from this individual mind, unite ourselves with the total mind. So from thinking of myself, what I want, my petty little desires, my petty little things in this world, unite myself to the total mind who is God. Let my mind just dwell on Bhagavad. So lift myself through Bhakti Yoga. Because when my mind dwells solely on Bhagavan, Bhagavati, I cannot think of anything else in this world. I do not think of anything else in this world. That thought just doesn't come because the mind is so much merged into that cosmic mind. So lift the mind. Then from Prajna to Ishvara means now we're going to the causal state, but here we take it as samadhi. From that mind going into this, from that mind, instead of that mind going into deep sleep, let that mind go into samadhi. Let it go into samadhi, absorb in the self, the practice of Raja Yoga, that meditation, absorb in the self. So let me lift myself through concentration, through absorption, through the practice of Raja. And finally, Turiya for the fourth. Let me lift myself to Turiya, that which is beyond the waker, dreamer, deep sleep, beyond the individual being, beyond the cosmic being, that which is Atman, Brahman itself. Let me lift myself to that. So, spiritual practice is this. It is about lifting our individuality to unite with totality. This is the first part of spiritual practice. And only when we do that, then we're able to transcend both individuality and totality. So lift ourselves by ourselves. And having lifted ourselves, don't let the self slip. Means don't let the mind slip. Don't let the mind slip again. How do we slip? In the practice of Karma Yoga, we slip through our selfishness. All of a sudden, our selfishness gets in the way. And what we do is we forget the vision. We forget the vision. Let us say we are all serving together and working together for a greater vision. We forget about that and we only do what we like, what we want, because it's convenient to us. So this is how we slip in Karma Yoga. We let selfishness get in the way. We let our ego get in the way. How we slip in Bhakti Yoga is we forget Bhagavan. The minute we forget Bhagavan, all tamasha starts. Everything starts. So we slip from Bhakti Yoga when we forget Bhagavan. Not that we have to keep saying the name of Bhagavan, but Bhagavan is in and everything we do. In Raja Yoga, we slip when our mind becomes distracted, because it's the practice of concentration, the practice of focusing our mind. We slip when we get so distracted here and there. Huh? We move too much, we're looking here and there, we're going here and there, we're moving around, we slip. That is happening now, as I look at you, that's what I'm saying. And in Jnana Yoga, we slip when we forget who we truly are. When we forget we are. So lift yourself again means lift the mind. Lift the mind to the truth of who you are. And having lifted that mind, don't let that mind again fall. Don't let the mind fall. So first meaning I had mentioned about Satchit Ananda. Second meaning I had mentioned about individuality to totality. Now third meaning of this verse, we look at now how Gurudev shares it. And Gurudev's commentary is also so beautiful in this verse. He says it from a very, very practical standpoint. What he says is, in all of our lives, we have two parts of us. One is called our ideal self, who we want to be. And then one is called our actual self. There's an ideal self is here, an actual self, and there's a gap. So hopefully we have an ideal. And he says sometimes we also don't have that ideal self. We think we are the ideal. Then we are in big trouble. We are in big trouble because we don't even know that we have work to do. So first is we have an ideal picture of how we want to be. And that's why we keep certain pictures in our apartments, in our homes. We keep certain people in mind. We have these role models, affirmation statements, because we have an ideal that we want to pursue. But then we are right here. This is our actual self. And there's a gap. So when he says, lift yourself by yourself, means bring my actual self. And again, these two selves are not Atman, to be very clear. They are not Atman. They are the mind and the intellect. Okay? They're the mind and the intellect. The mind is somehow kind of divorced from the intellect. This is bring the mind to the level of your intellect, the level of your ideal and ideology. That means lifting the mind. And having lifted, don't let it fall. Now, the question is, how do we lift that mind to the intellect? How do I make my actual self meet my ideal self so that there's no more gap between? So there's this acronym now called LIFT. So just like this verse, LIFT. L means look, I means introspect, F means focus, and T means take shelter in Bhagavan. This is how we lift ourselves. Look, the first L means look, means have a clear picture of exactly how I want to be or how I think I should be. According to Shastra, don't have some monstrous idea how I want to be. According to Shastra, according to what I have studied, according to what I have learned, what is the ideal person I should be? How should I be like? Physically in the sense that how healthy should my body be? The body should be fit for spirituality. I'm not talking about looks and all of that, nothing like that. how to get my body fit so that I can do these spiritual practices in terms of my emotional ability. How do I get my mind to stay a little bit more peaceful, calm, loving, so that I can get to my ideal personality? And how do I get my intellect to go even deeper? Where do I want my intellect, my ideologies to be? Where do I want the depth of my knowledge to be? So how do I want my life to be? What do I want to look like? Again, not look in a physical way, but really spiritually. So what is my ideal? And we should all have that. Because if we don't have that, we will not better ourselves. We will be so complacent in the spiritual path that we will not move. So the first is look higher than you, than me, than ourselves. Look higher to a greater ideal of how we can look. It's like, whenever we want to go somewhere in life, you get in the car, and what's the first address we have to plug in? Destination. First, we have to know where we're going, right? Right? Otherwise, if we don't know where we're going, we won't even start the journey. So look. Then I means introspect. So now I kind of know where I want to be, how I want to be, but introspect, where am I actually? Where am I actually? What is my current state? So this we also should evaluate. Otherwise, if we don't evaluate, then we won't have practical steps to actually accomplish. This is not also don't just think this, write this. This is so helpful to write, actually, to know, okay, this is where I am. So where am I now in terms of physical fitness, in terms of emotional stability, in terms of intellectual understanding, in terms of just my spiritual life as a sadhaka, in terms of my family relations? Where am I now? So once I have been able to introspect, then this gap, it becomes very clear. It becomes so incredibly clear that it's so easy now, because all the steps are clear. When you're in your car, you plug in destination address, then you also plug in the starting address, correct? So 1, 2 addresses are plugged in, then boom, 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 automatically they give you the whole step. You can go this way, you can go that way, no tolls and with tolls, but without tolls, it's always 30 minutes extra. All of these things they will tell us, right? So the minute we have these two clear, the whole path is clear for us. The whole path is so clear for us. Now all we have to do is go. But how do we go? With the F. And the F is focus, in a focused way. So we all know when we travel on a road trip, if it says it takes 6 hours to get there, and we drive straight 6 hours, we will get there in 6 hours, right? But now you're all going to say that's quite impractical. Who drives for 6 hours straight, right? We need to take some breaks. So focus doesn't mean no breaks. Please understand this. Focus doesn't mean no breaks, because sometimes we need to take breaks to even be more focused. But focus means to take those breaks which will recharge us. So when we're driving in a car, when we're on a road trip, what will recharge us? Sometimes we have to fill fuel. We have to fill gas. That will recharge the car. Sometimes we have to use a bathroom. Sometimes we're hungry, we need to eat. Sometimes we need to take a rest stop. Just lie down for a moment before we drive again because we're tired. Sometimes we need to stretch and walk a little bit. So all of these stops completely fine, because they're only going to help us recharge and focus more. And we will come back with much more energy. But those stops which will drain us, those we should avoid. All of a sudden on the road trip we're going, let's go shopping. Then let's go shopping. Or, let's try this diner, and then we will eat this, and then we will eat this ice cream, and then we will go for this milkshake. But how will we get there? Huh? Or we will go visit this place and we will stay there and watch this movie, and we will go to this other place, and we will never get there. We will just get drained out with all of that. So focus means we're focused on the path. We know where we have to go, and we can take breaks. It's okay. But take those breaks that really recharge us. So look, introspect, focus. And the T is, we feel in our lives, I've tried so hard, I've done everything that I can do. Now, what else? I'm not there yet. The T is take shelter in Bhagavan, and the T is also time. Now you wait. Huh? Because two parts are always there. One part is our effort, one part is Bhagavan's grace. Huh? Just take shelter in Bhagavan, surrender to Bhagavan, and eventually we will reach who we ought to be. We will reach there. And we will reach even beyond that. But with Bhagavan's grace. So this is what it means to lift ourselves. Lift ourselves, and we have to work on ourselves. Life will not happen without working on ourselves. We have to put forth self-effort. That's why this verse is very clear. Uddharet atmanatmanam. Gurudev used to roar this statement, lift the self by the self. We have to do. Because Guru can teach us the scriptures, but it is up to us to absorb and live. Somebody can bring food in front of us, but it is up to us to actually eat it. The doctor can prescribe all the medication for us. We can also go buy it and order it also, but it can also just sit in our, cabinet, and we have to actually take it. So at the end of the day, there's a lot of self-effort that's required, but coupled with grace. So lift the self. Lift that mind to that intellect. Lift that actual self to the ideal self. And na atmanam avasadave. Having lifted our minds to those great heights, don't come down again. No. Everybody knows it takes so much effort to climb up. But to come down, and go 1 second. Now in the ski lift, so much effort to get on the ski lift. But to come down, you just go like that, isn't it? So there's so much effort to climb up, but to come down is very easy. So on this path, extreme alertness is required. Gurudev used to say, quiet, alert, and vigilant mind. Alert and vigilant means really, really be aware of what's happening. Sometimes we might think like, what's the harm? What's the harm if I, go enjoy here and there? And what's the harm if I binge watch? What's the harm if I just eat, today, so what? I want 5 pakoras, so let me eat, right? Or when am I going to do this? Life is short. Let me just do it, right? So what? Today I want to just go on a full shopping spree and buy all these things that I don't really need. So what? So in Narada Bhakti Sutra, those who studied Narada Bhakti Sutra, when we studied together, there's this beautiful sutra It says, Tarangayita ime sangat samudryanti, which means that even a little ripple can become an ocean. Be very, very careful. We all know the story of Kaikai in Ramayana. Yes, we all know how Kaikai loved Sri Rama and Sita Devi. She loved them. In fact, when she heard about the coronation, she was so incredibly happy. She was rejoicing. But what happened? Mantara entered. Huh? And when Mantara entered, she said, Mantara, you're here. I'm so happy. You know, Ramji, Sitaji, they are like my own children. And I wish to have children like this again and again. Whatever you want, I will give to you. But Mantara, she put on a very sad face. And she said, you don't know what's happening. She said, what do you mean? I know what's happening. This coronation. I'm so excited. And she said, no. This is all cooked up by Kausalya. Kausalya knows that you are the favorite of the king. And she doesn't like it. That's why she wants Sri Rama to be king. And she might even send Bharata away. Who knows? And slowly, she kept saying all of these words to Kaikai. Now, what did Kaikai do? She just kept listening. She did not tell Mantra, go away. She kept listening. And slowly, Mantra got to her mind and said that, Mantra said, remember, you have 2 boons. Now you must ask for those 2 boons. And the first boon, ask Bharata to be king. Then you send Rama away to the forest for 14 years. And then you will see that the kingdom, everybody will rejoice. And you will be treated like a queen and everybody will be your slave. All of these things, she poisoned Kaikai's mind. That Kaikai, from being so incredibly happy that Ramchandraji was going to be, he was going to be crowned, she was so incredibly happy. 1 minute, the next moment, that same Kaikai, what did she do? She put her hair down, she took out all her jewelry and she went to the anger house, Kopa Bhavat. There they had anger house. And then she lay down there in the anger house. And she was very upset from this whole episode. So one small ripple can turn into a big ocean. So sometimes we're very relaxed and say, oh, what harm can it do? Just a little bit. A little bit goes a long way. So be careful. So once we have started living a divine life, started lifting our minds to greater heights, stay there. Stay there. And reflect, revel, and be in the company of greatness. That is our dharma. Now, I have just done the first line of this verse, and I have maybe 1 minute left. So in that 1 minute, I will just revise a little bit. And the second line we will do next week, because this is a very beautiful verse. The whole day, I wanted to actually just stay stuck on this verse because it's so wonderful. So today, the main thing that we have to keep in mind is that self-effort is important in the spiritual path. And when Bhagavan Krishna says, lift yourself by yourself, self Atma here does not mean Satchit Ananda Atma. It means, for the most part, the mind. So in one context, lift the mind to the greatness of who you are. So instead of thinking I am the body, mind, intellect, lift the mind to knowing that I am Atma. Second meaning, lift the mind to the self, to the fruit of my being through these spiritual practices of Karma Yoga, Bhakti Yoga, Raja Yoga, and Jnana Yoga, by uniting my individual being with the cosmic. Third meaning, lift the mind to the level of the intellect, that intellect which is trained by Shastra. Lift my actual self to my ideal self. And having lifted myself, stay there and don't let myself slip again. All right. So we'll conclude. And then, as always, those who have questions or want to share thoughts, you're welcome to stay back. Om Purnamada Purnamidam Purnat Purnamudachyate Purnasya Purnamadaya Purnameva Vashishyate. Om Shanti Shanti Shanti. Hari Om Shri Guru Pyo Namaha. Hari Om.